Hey guys, I'm Helena. So today we're in for the last part of the Ring of the Nibelung, and we're gonna look again at who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist, who's good and who's evil. Because those aren't necessarily the same thing, let's say it like this. Yeah, and then next week we'll do like the whole ring. And I've kind of talking a bit about it in the grand scheme of things when I talked about Siegfried last week. But I just wanted to do a whole video about the whole thing, so to say. So, anyway, Götterdämmerung. So, in Götterdämmerung we have two people who who Wagner deems as bad. And that's obviously Hagen and Alberich. So, I see Hagen more as an extension of Alberich because, well, he's his son, and we could argue about how much Hagen would actually do if it wasn't for Alberich. I don't know, I think hardly anyone, if ever, is born bad, but that people are being influenced to be bad. So I would say personally, in this case, Hagen being Alberich's son, there's a lot of hatred that he grew up with, a lot of hatred towards Wotan, towards his children. So, yeah, I would see Hagen more as an extension to Alberich. And not that they're one and the same person, because they're not, obviously, but it's disputable whether Hagen would really do those things if it weren't for Alberich lurking in the background and standing there and saying, "Schläfst du, Hagen, mein Sohn?" I don't know. It's for the singers to decide, and it's for the director to decide. Not for me. But yeah, just saying. Okay, good. We're going to start with the protagonist. And this is harder than expected, because normally I would say it's between Brünnhilde and Siegfried. And obviously they can't both be on the good side, because, or the protagonist side, because there's only one protagonist spot on. And they are kind of not living their best lives in this, like with each other. They do for the first 5 minutes and the apparently 30 hyles they sing. But it's not really a union, so to say, like it is with Hagen and Alberich. Hagen and Alberich are more of a union. They are basically, again, an extension. And this is not happening with Brünnhilde and Siegfried. So, just saying. I think in any case, if we choose Brünnhilde or Siegfried as our protagonist, Hagen is the antagonist, with Alberich being his shadow, with Alberich lurking in the background. Yeah, I think the antagonist spot is very, very clearly distributed, and it's Hagen. He also gets to die, by the way. Like, that's a nice touch from Wagner, I suppose. Alberich doesn't get to die. He's like one of 5 people who survived this. Alongside with like the Rhine Maidens and Gudrune, which I think is so funny that the people who are basically the beginners of this whole story, who were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make fun of this guy. Great idea, can't go wrong." They get to survive. Miss, "Oh, he's in love with another woman, but he's pretty, so I want him. We'll just give him a love potion." She survives too. And Alberich, again, who started this whole thing by saying, "Oh, I'm ugly and they don't like me and I'm so evil that I will curse love forever." Like, how do they survive? It's literally no one else survives. It's just survives. It's not happening. I thought at the beginning that the bird would survive, but no, because they say like the ravens are on its path, and I don't think they would let it, well, fly. Anyway, back to Götterdämmerung. I think it's difficult because both compromise themselves, both Brunhilde and Siegfried, but this is not a question that we have to answer now because it's not the protagonist question. I think that the focus shifts, let's say it like this, that the focus shifts between Brunhilde and Siegfried because both of them take over major parts of the story, but in the end it's really Brunhilde's story. And everything that happens while she's not on stage, such as Siegfried drinking the potion because he didn't have a dad who said, bro, let her drink first. Just saying. This would have been the one thing that we should have taken from the Valkyrie. To say, don't drink anything before the other person hasn't tasted it before. That would have been the way to go. It isn't. Well. But everything, even when Brunhilde isn't there, it's still about her, I would argue. It's also the same way around, like with Siegfried. Even when he's not there, it's still about him. You know what I mean? For example, in the end of Act 1, when we are at my favorite thing again. When we are with Waltraute again, they are again talking about Siegfried, they are talking about the ring. And this is while Siegfried's on the way to rape Brunhilde. Also, just to remind everyone, Waltraute is she's the element in this case who tells us what happened before. Plain and simple. That's just how this thing works, basically. She's the one who says, yeah, while you were away, this happened. That happened, and nye. She's basically the element that tells Brunhilde in the end that she has to die and that she has to give the ring back to the Rhine maidens. And that she has to send the flame to Valhall. Just saying. Anyway. Got this again. So this is basically, I think, a shared position of Protagonist. If it weren't for the fact that Siegfried dies and it's going like on half an hour, with Brunhilde's wonderful death, and wonderful I mean as in it's 20 minutes long, it's beautiful, it's great, it's wonderful, we'll take it. That's wonderful. And it's heroic, and if done right, it's wonderful to see on stage. Anyway, so I would personally argue more towards Brunhilde as a protagonist, but it still would make Hagen the antagonist. Or even Siegfried. But Siegfried, again, he has the benefit of the doubt due to him having been drinking the potion. I think it could be different in modern interpretations like the Schwarzring, which are still missed in Bayreuth. Anyway, we should make a video about this, like expectations for Bayreuth. I would love to hear your thoughts for that. Anyway, in the Schwarzring it is that Siegfried, he sees the potion, but he's so enamored by Gudrune already that he doesn't need to drink it. Also, the potion's not a potion because it's just something to drink. Maybe herbs, maybe like poison or something, drugs, possibly at this point, because Gunther has been on this thing the whole time. I can't do the real gesture now, obviously, because I fear getting demonetized. Anyway, so we could argue that Siegfried's like the bad guy in those interpretations because he's being real. I'm sorry, in the Schwarzring, and it's like, yeah, masculinity at its worst, basically. But this is not for the overarching thing. Overarchingly, Siegfried doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know what's going on. He's drinking his potion, so he literally doesn't know. He's intoxicated. This, in a court of law, this would play out. Him being intoxicated and him not knowing what he's doing. So some cases that this might work, Siegfried being the antagonist, and sometimes not. So, and we're going over to good and evil. And now we have a dilemma, because there's no good. Literally. And we can go through literally every person, and we can like see if anyone is not compromised. Okay. Siegfried. Yeah, he's compromised. Obviously, drinks the potion, is stupid enough to drink the potion, and doesn't think that he might be deceived by people. He's compromised. Not out of his own fault, okay? It's not his fault, but he is compromised. He's not the pure good. Again, he's the natural kind of guy. So what he sees in nature, he does. And deceivement is not so much in the book for nature. Anyway, unless it's ravens. So, then Gunther. Do we even have to talk about this guy? Like, really? I mean, are we at the point in life where it's like, oh, but she's stronger than me. Could you rape her for me? Like, what? No. So Gunther's out. Hagen. No. Alberich, also no. Brünnhilde also compromises herself. Which is, of course, because Siegfried's compromised. So it's like the domino effect. Because Siegfried drank the potion and he's like, now Brünnhilde is also compromised. Is there something? No. Must be a speck on the camera. Anyway. Yeah. Brünnhilde, she's compromised, obviously, because she's like, what, potion? No. I won't even think about a potion. It's him being a bad person. We're gonna kill him. Also compromised. Also, she, like, is so human that she drives Waltraute away. And that she doesn't listen to Waltraute saying, that ring is bad news. Like, no, girl. Even though Wotan told her about it in the Valkyrie. But she doesn't remember. She's so human now. So humanized by Siegfried that she can't. That she isn't in the headspace for it. Probably, I would say that, considering that she's been on this world for 1,000 years or so, much more than 1,000 years at this point, I would argue that probably most gods have a much higher brain capacity. Just, yeah. Most of them have a much higher brain capacity, and that capacity diminishes when she becomes mortal, because obviously we have a relatively little lifespan of, 116 years max? At the very, very most, 116 years. And if you've lived thousands of years, I think that her brain is just shrinking, and it's just cutting out everything that the mortal brain can't understand, I would say. Then my favorite, Gudrune. And I mean favorite very sarcastically, because I cannot stand her. There's very, very few female roles in the ring that I can't stand, and Gudrune is one of them. There's a bit of an argument for Freya, but they're mostly like sung by the same person, which I think is funny. And Freya doesn't really have a chance, so much of a fighting chance, because she really doesn't have that much to say. Let's be real. So Gudrune, I don't like Gudrune. No. Okay, good. So let's think about Gudrune. Is she the good one in this? Nope. No, she's not. Hell no, she is not. Can't stand. I mean, how? I mean, I'm sorry. Somewhere in my heart, I'm sorry for her. But still, like, this whole, oh, he's in love with someone else. I don't care. I want him. Like, no, girl, get out. Just leave. It's like literally her fault and Hagen's, because he has the idea. But Gudrune is desperate enough to do it. Just have to say it at this point. So, Gudrune is not the good of it all. Then Waltraute, also compromised, because, as we know, the ring has its powers. So she might have come there to the Valkyrie stone, mountain, whatever. We talked about this before, that it's a bit difficult to translate. Waltraute comes there with best intentions, but as soon as she comes into the orbit of the ring, she's like, gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it, gotta have it. That's her brain then. And she wants to have the ring. She thought she was strong enough, which is kind of weird, considering that even her father, the king of the gods, was not immune against that pull. And she thinks she is, but she is very clearly not. So she's just like Siegfried in a way, compromised by a higher power that she can't really do anything about. So out of all these people, I would probably say Siegfried's intoxicated. He's just plain stupid for drinking something random. I mean, his father literally had his mother drink before him. But, well, one half of his parents was dead before he was born, and one died soon after he was born. So, yeah. Can't learn from parents who are not there. So, Siegfried, he's there for... But he's not the good. You know what I mean? He's not the good one. Neither is Brunhilde, because, again, she compromises herself willingly. She compromises herself willingly. Yes, the situation upon which she bases what she will do later is wrong, and it's false, and it's that stupid bitch who doesn't get a guy otherwise. But she still compromises herself, as does Waltraute. I'd probably say that... I would say that in a way Waltraute is like the Wotan of Götterdämmerung, because she's the only thing that is left of the gods in Götterdämmerung. So I would, just like Hagen is an extension of Alberich, I would say that Waltraute is an extension of Wotan. I think Brunhilde sings in the Valkyrie, Wer wär ich dein Wille nicht. So the same goes for Waltraute, she's the will of Wotan. She's an extension. So, we could argue that she's probably the best out of this, because she has the best intentions, just like Siegfried has. But is then compromised on the way by something that they both can't control. Brunhilde is such a... Depends on the interpretation. Just saying. Yeah. By the way, I love... Just have to say it again. I think it's the Kupferring from 1990-1991 in Bayreuth. So good. The Götterdämmerung is so good. I have like my perfect ring. out of 4 DVDs, 4 productions. And this Götterdämmerung, it's so good, with Anne Evans and Siegfried Jerusalem. It's just great, wonderful, beautiful, great. Anyway, so that's, I think, the good. We're here somewhere in the realm of Siegfried, but he's intoxicated, Waltraute, but she's coerced, or, well, cursed, simply. And Brünnhilde, who's less so, but she becomes the Valkyrie she always was, and she hasn't been in a while, so good for her. Why not? Now for the bad guy. So, and here we make the difference again a bit with the whole ring and just Götterdämmerung, because if we just look at Götterdämmerung, Alberich doesn't have to say so much. So if we just look at Götterdämmerung, there's a very clear case for Hagen being the bad guy. And then, like, his minions, Gunther and Gudrune, because they can't get a guy and they can't get a girl, and that's why this is so easy for Hagen. I mean, if they were nice people or good people, I mean, he's a king and he can't find a girl. What does that tell you about him? It's gotta be really bad. Just saying, like, it's bad, okay? So, same goes for her. Like, if her brother's not married and has no children, then the kingdom might fall to his brother-in-law. But no one wants Gudrune, even if you get the kingdom as a handy accessory with it. So, again, Hagen, bad guy, Shadow, Alberich, and then, like, the minions being Gunther and Gudrune. I also didn't like her in school. Like, we read a very, very different version of the Nibelungs in school, and I did not like Kriemhilde. She's in the other saga. She's not Gudrune, but Kriemhilde, and I suppose that Wagner changed it because it sounds, if you sing it at a very high height, then Kriemhilde and Brünnhilde sound very, very similar, because they kind of go into that E sound, both. So he had to change it to Gudrune, I think. And in school, everyone wanted to be Kriemhilde, and I was like, why? Like, why, girls? She's so boring. First of all, she's so boring, then she's so manipulative, even in the book. Like, girl, no. Hell no. This was so annoying. Anyway, I remember the specific scene where... Yeah, never mind. It was just funny. Because we had to play, like, a scene out of it. And there was, like, 2 couples and I was one of them. And I'm so glad we didn't have the time for me, because I would have had to play Kriemhilde. And no. And it was like Kriemhilde questioning Siegfried, and normally he should put up a fight. But our Siegfried, he apparently wanted very, very much to go back to his seat in class. And he was like, oh, you have a question? Just ask me. Oh yeah, I'm gonna answer that. It was like this, there was no fight. And it was so funny. Anyway. So that's what I would say. Hagen, Alberich, minions. And then in the overarching scheme, obviously, we have Alberich in the front seat. He's the bad guy, or what is supposed to be the bad guy, in the whole ring, based on Wagner. And yeah, I think that's it. So what do we have now? We have Protagonist, somewhere between Brünnhilde and Siegfried, but for me, closer to Brünnhilde. Then Antagonist, Hagen with a shadow of Alberich, and then his minions a bit in the back, and arguably, depending on the production, also Siegfried sometimes. And then we have the good being in between Siegfried, who was intoxicated, Waltraute, who was cursed, so they can't do anything about it, and Brünnhilde, whose information is based on the wrong situation, an altered situation, which she also can't do anything about. And then as the bad people we have Hagen, his shadow Alberich, and their minions Gunther and Gudrune. Yeah, I think that's kind of odd for today, isn't it? Yep. I don't know. Just as a thought at the end, I think Waltraute is an extremely underrepresented character, because it's only because of her that this ends well. Because in the moment when Brünnhilde kind of wakes up, in a way, she remembers what Waltraute told her, that the ring has to go back to the Rhine Maidens, and that she has to potentially sacrifice herself, and that Wotan's waiting for the end of the world. And she remembers all that. And the question is, if Waltraute hadn't been there, would she have remembered? Or would she have just said, this is a pretty piece of jewelry, I'm gonna keep this? I would argue that without Waltraute it would be very different in the end. She's kind of directing it all back to where it's supposed to be. And if she hadn't been touched by the curse and become greedy, then maybe it would have ended much sooner. Just saying. Obviously, if the ring's a child, then it's very, very different. And I think Waltraute also broke out of an asylum in the Schwarzring. But anyway, this is it for today. Hope you had a nice time with Götterdämmerung. And I'll see you guys next week for All of the Ring. Have a nice day. Bye.